EGM Network.
Treasure Coast Connector. Connecting residents and businesses of the Treasure Coast. And here's your host, Ellen Contreras.
Welcome to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras. This episode is partially sponsored by Libby Weissman and her team at Senior Transition Navigator and Luxury Homes of the Treasure Coast. Libby and her team work with seniors and their families to help them with transitions with services like downsizing, decluttering, packing, moving, relocation, and much more. For a free consultation, give Libby a call at 772-783-2800 or visit seniortransitionnavigator.com and luxuryhomesofthetreasurecoast.com. Now, we've heard the saying before, there are two things in life that are certain, death and taxes. And one of the biggest gifts that we can give to our family is to pre-plan and prepay for our final wishes. Joining me in the studio today is Debra Ames. She is the Family Services Counselor for Dignity Memorial. They are a provider of funeral homes, so she has a lot of great information to share, including some heartwarming stories about a subject that some find a little bit sensitive. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ellen.
I am so glad to have you here. And I know that as people are listening to you, your voice, your presence alone is so very calming. And that is why you are very good at what you do. And we're going to talk about that more in a bit. But I would like for people to know a little bit about your background and what got you started in this industry.
It's actually kind of funny a little. I finished college and I was going to go with my friends and work for Department of Children and Families, be a case manager, food stamps, cash assistants, Medicaid. And then they put a freeze on state hiring. I had already had my interview, my testing, just waiting for a start date. That wasn't going to happen. I saw an ad in the paper for a family service counselor, and I'm like 22, 23. So I set an appointment. I went out, going near Mayport, Jacksonville at the time.
Oh, yeah, up north.
Yeah. And I drove out there and didn't have a cell phone, of course, no GPS, But I stumbled upon a gas station and a payphone, and I was like, where am I? I called and I said, I think I'm lost. And she said, no worries, look around, tell me what you see. And I'm like, there's nothing out here, nothing. She said, turn around and just look and tell me what you see. And I said, I assure you, there's nothing here, just a big old cemetery. And she said, that's us. Do you still want to come in? And I was like, sure, okay.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of how I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
And then I was only there about 18 months. And then the state called me back and said, do you still want to come work for us? So I did that for 17 years. And then my husband passed away.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. I came back here and they're like, you should come back to work for us. And I said, no way. But then after about 4 years, it kind of changes you, losing your spouse.
Sure.
And
yeah,
here I am. I've been back since about 2016.
Wow. Okay. Well, very good. Yeah. And that is hard when we lose a loved one, especially a spouse. You needed a little bit of time, but you also knew what people were going through and what you went through, and now you're able to help.
Right. So many people had helped me, and, it changes you, And
yeah.
so I just hope that I help some people through some really terrible times.
Yeah. So my mom passed in 2013. So you were not there when my brother and I were there. But it was an amazing place. And I had never seen roses. I'll just say I've never seen roses so beautiful in my life. It was Unbelievable. But okay, so now most people, we don't want to talk about passing on. We really don't want to face it, right? But let's just say that a loved one is getting close. Maybe they're in hospice or whatever, and final arrangements haven't been made, but they're still with us. How does the family get the conversation started? Because it's not always easy.
No, it's not always easy, and it's not always the same. There's no like easy cookie cutter answer. You know, I would encourage everybody to have the talk before you need to. Is absolute best. But when you start, say, a hospice journey, they're very good. Hospice angels are very good at helping the family get started. You know, if you haven't had the conversation to even know if you want cremation or burial, that's just huge, because, you know, in the time that someone passes, if you haven't had that conversation, what are you going to do? Is it your spouse that's making these decisions? Are the children? Sometimes, you know, families are separated in all different parts of the country, and they come together at this moment because they're losing their parent or their grandparent or sibling. And then everybody seems to have their own opinion.
Emotions run high.
Yes, they do.
And maybe some arguments can come about.
We find that a lot. But if you can just, I mean, that's probably the hardest question, but probably the best one to start with. Is, have you thought about cremation or burial? And you might be surprised at some of the reactions.
Yeah.
But that's how you get started.
Yeah, and you have a comprehensive planning guide, which you sent to me, which is a number of pages.
It is.
Which is wonderful. So then you can just kind of do one page at a time. Just digest it a little bit at a time. You don't have to try to do everything all at once.
Not at all.
So
baby steps, I try to say.
Yeah.
With the personal planning guide, it's set up for one person. And it starts out with information that we need for the death certificates. You know, some questions, I sit with families a lot with the funeral directors. I'm not a funeral director. I'm a pre-arranger. And I also do the burials. When you have your personal planning guide, you'd be surprised some families don't know their mother's maiden name. Like, or their grandparents' mother's maiden name, whoever they're planning the service for. It's kind of a little surprising to me when we come across that. But it'll start out with basic questions like that, and it'll ask you, what are your preferences? All the questions that are in that planning guide are asked by the funeral director when you sit down when someone has passed away. Like, if you want to be cremated, maybe you want a viewing, a gathering where your family can come, family and friends, honor their loved ones. Do you want to have jewelry on when you're buried? Do you want to have the jewelry taken back for keepsakes and handed back to the family? Do you want to, if anyone in your family is military, you know, all the cemetery is provided for a military person and their spouse in a national cemetery. Some families want to keep their loved ones local, and they come to ours. Here in Fort Pierce at Hillcrest and Aycock, we're the only combination location from Palm Bay to
Palm Beach. So I'm glad
that's kind of unique.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah. One thing, though, is when your mom says, and she points to a dress in a photo and says, I would like to have my viewing in this dress. I said, great. Guess what she never told me? Where her dress was.
Oh, my goodness.
I assumed it was in her closet. Madness and mayhem. Okay, to find this. Thankfully, I just calmed myself down. And I said, think, Ellen, it's only an 1,800 square foot house. She had a cedar chest by Lane. And there it was, just wrapped up and ready to go. So that should be in the notes as well, where stuff is in the house. Right, Cindy? Thank you very much. I like to get Cindy to laugh at least once during the show. Okay, so of course this is a sensitive subject.
It is.
But my mom is up there looking down and laughing. She goes, you know what? That's a good point, Ellen.
So proud of you.
Yes. And then the next question I want to ask, and again, I don't really want to be flip about this, but sometimes we can be here one day and gone the next, right? And when something like that happens, no offense, I'm going to say grandma got run over by a reindeer Christmas carol, but God forbid something happens to someone, regardless of their age, and it leaves everybody in a very heightened emotional state. What is your advice for people that find themselves in that situation?
Well, I'll keep you in my prayers for that you don't have to experience that.
Right.
But a lot of people do.
Right.
And if a passing occurs and they're not under medical care, like a hospice or in a hospital, someone just doesn't wake up one day, you have to call law enforcement.
Oh.
And they have to come out. And they're the ones that are going to report the passing. And you would let them know what funeral home you prefer. And then if you're under hospice care, even they will make the call for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, just it would be a good idea to have a plan in place before you ever even think you need it.
Exactly. But anything can happen at any time.
Right.
So sorry, I don't want any reindeers going near grandma's. So stop it.
And it's pretty hot down here. So
Yeah, I think we're
part,
okay. I think we're okay. If any children are listening to this, I'm just kidding. Anyway, goodness gracious, Ellen. Sometimes I can be funny and sometimes not so much. Just ask my husband. He will agree with that. And then, of course, the pre-planning. That is a wonderful gift. So go into a little bit more detail. How does it work? How does the whole prepayment thing work? If somebody says, that's not a bad idea.
Well, the first thing you're going to do is have a conversation. And I can meet you at your home. I can meet you at the office, wherever you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just start having a conversation. What is important to you? What traditions do your families follow? Do you want to go cutting edge and do something different?
Mm-hmm.
And we just start talking about it. And then once you kind of figure out what you want to do, I'll let you know what the costs are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to proceed, I'll help you with that. We have payment plans where, some people will say, well, I have life insurance. We're good.
Okay.
Well, life insurance doesn't make any decisions for you, for one. And also life insurance, we don't know how our lives are going to end up. Sometimes that's used for medical situations, nursing homes,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So when you're thinking about prearranging, a lot of times it's best to do it with a funeral home and cemetery so that you're just making some payments for a couple of years. Your prices are locked in. They'll never increase.
Mm.
And once you're finished paying, you're done. Sometimes with the life insurance, you're paying those premiums until you pass away. And sometimes that cost can outweigh the death benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things to look at, but we'll go over everything together and your situation. Everything is personalized and
Mm-hmm.
customized.
Yeah. Yeah. Cindy is making us take a break. I am so engrossed in what you're saying that, I didn't even look at my timer. So with that said, Debra Ames of Dignity Memorial, Hillcrest Memorial, Aycock Funeral Homes, she has a lot more to say. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Evergreen Media is your go-to for podcasting. Business owners, boost your brand by educating clients with your own show. Just show up. We handle everything else. Get your custom video podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and more. Start today at egreenmedia.com.
Are you a therapist or a nurse seeking the multi-state compact license? In the state of Florida, these and many other industries require a Level 2 live scan background check for clearance to work in your industry. A1A Fingerprints is your certified live scan source from Broward to Brevard. And if you're a medical provider, you need to be registered on the ACA web portal. A1A Fingerprints will help you navigate and comply with the law. Call 772-494-6556 or visit A1AFingerprints.com. A1A Fingerprints.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Sofas, love seats, dining sets, and bedroom groups in the latest styles and colors from Four Seasons, Braxton Color, Riverside, Universal Coastal Living, Hooker, Capri, Tommy Bahama, and lots more. We're the outdoor furniture experts and have anything you need for your outdoor living from Lloyd Flanders, Kingsley Bate, Brown Jordan, and Woodard, including a gallery of maintenance-free furniture from Berlin Gardens and Pollywood. Right now, during our Memorial Savings event, we have lots of great half-price specials, including another 10% off on all Tommy Bahama and Lexington furniture in stock or special orders. And all pictures, lamps, and accessories are half price. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Don't forget to visit our outlet and sales store directly across the street that is filled with name brand closeouts, and visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Welcome back to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras. I'm with Debra Ames, Family Services Counselor with Dignity Memorial. And under that umbrella, they are a provider for Hillcrest Memorial Gardens and Aycock Funeral Homes. Did I get that right?
You did.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of corporate-y stuff, right? A lot of names there, but it's good because it's all, that you do different things, right? Mm-hmm. So now what I'd like to know is different options when we are departed from this earth with funerals and burials, cremations. Like, how do people decide, what to do? And what are the options?
There's options. Like, we can talk about cremation for one thing. You can have a typical viewing, a visitation. We do celebration of life. We kind of, for lack of a better word, there's theming. What did your loved one love? What made them smile? What were they passionate about? And our team just creates this room that's just simply amazing. And you can really, just by walking in, tell so much about that individual. Yeah. You can do that with cremation or with a burial.
Okay.
You can be taken to church. We can do everything before cremation that you can with a traditional burials and those types.
Good to know. That is good to know. And that's the other thing is, when I went to a chamber event at Aycock Funeral Homes, US 1 Fort Pierce, right on the border of Vero and Fort Pierce, it didn't feel like the funeral parlors from my grandmother's day. It really, I felt like I was in a room for a party.
Yeah. With our company, and, I might say here about Dignity Memorial, they are, we're owned by Service Corporation International, and Dignity is our brand name. That's how you can tell our affiliates. We're located in Canada, United States, and Puerto Rico. So as we were given services throughout the areas, we were finding that people would come in and, we had the traditional pews set up and you have the casket laid out with your loved one. People were coming from all over to pay their respects, coming in, spending a few minutes in the chapel area, and everyone was hanging out in the hallways, hanging out in the parking lot because they wanted to talk and share stories. So through that, we took out all our pews and we made tables and chairs. Yeah. We also do receptions and catering. We do champagne toast, all kind of things, butterfly releases, dove releases, anything to relate to the family, to help them through their celebration of life.
Yeah, and for some, it can be a celebration. Sometimes you think of someone who's in their 90s who has said, I have done so many things, and I'm so grateful and happy, and then they just pass away in their sleep, and then it becomes a party, and people are talking about all the funny stories, and,
all the sharing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I like that, too. Even my brother and I, while it was sad, we were kind of laughing and telling some funny stories. And we just were thinking about, we were raised that you've got to make everybody else feel comfortable. So we were just kind of laughing and joking.
Right.
And I turned and I looked at somebody who my mom was working with, and he just went like, because I guess he thought we were supposed to be crying, but we're like, we're supposed to be entertaining you. Isn't that funny?
Right.
How you're kind of raised in a certain way, but that's what my mom would have wanted. My mom, if she could have sat up and directed how we should act, she would have done that. Just so you know.
Sure.
She would have said, just tell some good stories about me.
Right.
So anyway, I'm so sorry. It's not always a funny thing. So if you could go into like where you're located and what people can expect when they reach out to you. Yeah.
So if
and your phone number. Please give your direct phone number, please.
Okay. So I do use my cell phone. It's on my business cards. It's 386-566-1515. And you can reach out to me by calling, texting. You can call our office, 772-461-8912. I can help you from Jupiter to Palm Bay.
Yeah.
I'll come to you, or we can meet somewhere. We can do virtual. We're set up. We use WebEx. We talked about the personal planning guides.
Yep.
We have them in paper, and we also have them electronically. So whatever is easiest for you, I can get them in your hands. They don't cost anything. There's no obligation. You know, it's part of my passion is to help everyone I come across to just take these informations, look through it, because when it's time to when you have to, you're in such an emotional state.
Yeah.
It's so much better to talk about it ahead of time. But I'll help you however I can.
Yeah. I've said this before, that God forbid something happens to me first. My husband doesn't have to worry, because the casserole ladies will form a line outside the house.
Beautiful.
But I think they might even kind of get into little skirmishes to see how they can get to him first. I'm just saying. Although one of my friends, I won't say her last name, but Tammy, she called dibs. She said, don't worry about those ladies. I'm just going to take care, making sure he's okay.
Right.
But they'll call you. Okay, just want you to know they're going to give you a call. So one more time, I think your cell phone number again is very important to share, please.
Thank you. It's 386-566-1515.
Yeah, because I think that people will understand from this chat that you really do want to help. There's always, people in every industry that, wouldn't your mother want a diamond encrusted casket? Right? But you are not like that at all.
I want to help you discover what's important to you and help make the best decisions for your family, for your situation.
Yeah, I love that. And what we're going to do, because we are almost out of time, so I kind of want to segue, because as you know, Libby Weissman, and you're going to be speaking at one of her Empowering Senior seminars.
I sat through her seminar this May.
I know.
It's June now.
Yeah, so the next one is
wonderful.
In July, but we're going to talk about that for you for 2026. So Libby Weissman, Empowering Senior Seminar series, but she has SeniorTransitionNavigator.com, Luxury Homes of the Treasure Coast. She works with seniors and their families. She provides a lot of services while you're still alive to live your best golden years possible. Downsizing, decluttering, packing, moving, relocation. Her phone number, 772-783-2800, SeniorTransitionNavigator.com, LuxuryHomesOfTheTreasureCoast.com. So with the 60 seconds, let me give you 45 of those seconds. What is one thing that you would like to just end on? I know, right? I gave you a hard. All the questions were good, right? But I
would just say, don't be afraid of the topic. It's not about death. It's just about planning. We have insurance for car insurance, health, things we may not ever use, but we're not going to get around this one. So don't be afraid of the topic. It's just planning. It's the greatest gift you can give your family.
Well, I like that very much. My name is Ellen Contreras, host of Treasure Coast Connector. Until next week, I miss you already.